Most people think becoming rich is about making more money. It's not. There are people earning $3,000 a month building wealth quietly, while others making $10,000 a month are still stressed every time rent is due. So what actually separates them? It's not income. It's the moment your money stops feeling fragile. That moment usually happens long before someone becomes rich. And for most people, it starts when they finally build their first real financial cushion. Because until that point, life feels like one tiny emergency away from collapsing. Your car makes a weird sound. Stress. Unexpected medical bill. Stress. Phone breaks. Stress. Boss sends, "Can we talk tomorrow?" Instant panic. When you have no savings, every small problem feels life-threatening. And the scary part is, living like this slowly changes your personality. You become more desperate, more impatient, more emotional with money. You stop making smart decisions and start making survival decisions. That's why poor financial situations repeat themselves. Not because people are lazy, but because constant stress destroys long-term thinking. Psychologists call this scarcity mindset. When your brain constantly worries about survival, it becomes harder to focus, plan, learn, or take risks that improve your future. Imagine trying to play chess while your chair is on fire. That's how money stress feels. And this is why building your first serious savings account changes everything. Not because the number itself is magical, but because your brain finally feels safe enough to think differently. For the first time, you stop asking, "How do I survive this month?" and start asking, "How do I improve my future?" That single shift changes almost everything. Suddenly, you negotiate salaries differently. You spend differently. You think differently. You even walk differently. Because desperation disappears. And once desperation disappears, confidence starts growing. This is where most people misunderstand wealth. They think rich people only have advantages because they own more stuff. But the biggest advantage money gives you is options. Options to leave toxic jobs. Options to say no. Options to wait patiently instead of making desperate choices. Options to invest in yourself. And those options create even more opportunities. That's why money tends to multiply around people who already have some. Not because the universe is unfair, but because stability creates better decision-making. Think about investing. If someone invests $500, even a huge return barely changes their life. But when someone has larger savings, the exact same percentage growth suddenly becomes meaningful. Their money starts helping them. And that's the moment wealth building becomes addictive. Because eventually you realize something shocking. Your job is no longer your only source of progress. Your money begins working quietly in the background. At first, it's tiny. Maybe your investments grow enough to cover groceries, then a phone bill, then a month of rent. Then eventually, entire paychecks become optional. That's the power of compounding most people never experience, because they quit before momentum begins. The beginning always feels slow, painfully slow. You save for months and barely notice progress. Meanwhile, social media shows people buying luxury cars, designer clothes, expensive vacations. So people get discouraged. But what they don't realize is that flashy spending often hides financial weakness. Real wealth usually looks boring in the beginning. Quiet, patient, invisible. The person building wealth often drives the older car, lives in the smaller apartment, avoids showing off, because they understand something most people never learn. Looking rich and becoming rich are completely different games. Now here's the dangerous part. The moment people finally build savings, they often destroy it immediately. They reward themselves too early. A new car, luxury shopping, expensive upgrades, lifestyle inflation, because society trains people to spend every sign of progress. But wealthy people think differently. Instead of asking, "What can I buy?" they ask, "What can this money become if I leave it alone?" That question is life-changing because every dollar has two identities. It can become temporary pleasure or future freedom. And most people unknowingly trade long-term freedom for short-term excitement every single day. Once you understand this, a lot of expensive things stop looking impressive. You start seeing hidden costs everywhere. That luxury car? Years of delayed freedom. The giant apartment? More stress disguised as status. Impulse purchases? Tiny leaks sinking your future? You stop trying to look successful and start trying to become secure. That's a completely different mindset. Look, building wealth is not about becoming a millionaire overnight. It's about reaching the point where money stops controlling your emotions. Because once that happens, you finally gain the ability to think long-term. And long-term thinking is where almost all wealth is created. So if your progress feels slow right now, don't quit during the hardest phase. Because the beginning of wealth building always feels invisible, until one day, it suddenly doesn't. If this video changed the way you think about money, subscribe for more videos on wealth psychology, investing, and financial freedom.